This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
On the line with us is Jack Elsey. He is the executive director of the Detroit Children's Fund, one of the beneficiaries, one of the beneficial charities of the Rocket Mortgage Classic that's going to take place next week. Jack, how are you?
I'm doing really well, John. Thank you.
No problem. I'm looking forward to the conversation and for our audience to learn about the Detroit Children's Fund. And early in my research looking at the fund, you guys are a nonprofit organization that makes investments that really helps kids and local schools. Tell us about what the initiative is of the Detroit Children's Fund.
Yeah, simply put, the Detroit Children's Fund is an organization that pools donor resources, donor funds, and invests them in several different ways to make sure that the quality of schools, public schools in Detroit, both the schools run by Detroit Public Schools Community District and public charter schools, improve over time. I think it's no secret that for a long time, schools in Detroit haven't done as well as they should. And there are about 86,000 kids who wake up every day and go to a public school in Detroit. And we think they've got just as much of the God-given genius as anyone else in this country, and that they deserve schools that are going to take that genius and that potential and help them achieve the kind of lives that they deserve to live.
Yeah, in reading it says only 1 in 10 children in Detroit has access to a quality public school, and you guys work with board members, and you guys work to raise funds so that you guys give these youth a fighting chance in the schools. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. There are lots of reasons why schools have not been performing for a long time. Certainly one of them is funding. There are a lot of other issues that have gone on, not just in Detroit, but in a lot of urban areas around the country, and so it's going to take one of the key ingredients to making sure that schools perform better for all of Detroit's kids is to make sure schools have the funding that they need. Now, I should say we don't just sort of turnkey that funding directly into schools. We're also steadfastly focused on results. And so when we do make investments, we partner with schools, we spend the time with them, we work right alongside them, we run programs with them to make sure that at the end of the day, not just 1 or 2 or 10 kids has a better opportunity, but literally school by school, kids are having a fundamentally different educational experience.
For all information regarding the Detroit Children's Fund, please go check them out at DetroitChildren'sFund.org. Now, we got in contact because the fund is also now a beneficiary working with the Rocket Mortgage Classic. How does a fund like that become involved with a golf tournament of that magnitude?
Well, first, just to say, the Rocket Mortgage Classic, what an incredible opportunity for the Detroit community, the first PGA event in the city of Detroit proper. We couldn't thank, Dan Gilbert and Bill Emerson and the whole team at Quicken Loans for making this happen. I think we share Quicken and the whole Quicken family of companies' vision that Detroit's comeback won't be complete until every family in Detroit has the kind of opportunities that, lots of us have had growing up. And so I think Dan has believed deeply from day one that schools are an essential component of that. And so, it was a pretty good match from the beginning. You're talking about a company in Quicken that obviously cares deeply about Detroit. And so, I think we were a pretty good match from the beginning.
Yeah, your title is the executive director. I'm always fascinated with those that are in leadership positions. Take us through your role and what is it that you're tasked with in your position?
Well, I think what's interesting is, for me, working in philanthropy, so to speak, hasn't been a career. I started off as a teacher. I taught in the South Bronx through the Teach for America program, and I've spent the vast majority of my career working in large urban districts in the country, from New York to Detroit to Chicago and back to Detroit again, which is my hometown. I feel especially privileged to be able to do this work in my hometown. My role as executive director is to make sure that our programs are successful, that our partnerships with schools and with organizations that develop talent and leaders and recruit teachers are strong and thriving, that ultimately we're getting the results that we need. And then to tell the stories, right? To talk to folks like you, John, who are in touch with the Detroit area community, to tell our story. to talk about the potential that kids in Detroit have every day, and how we're helping to make schools turn that potential into a great life for all of our kids.
Yeah, now one of the early events that's going to take place Monday is some PGA Tour members are going to run a clinic that some of the kids from the Detroit Children's Fund will also participate in. They can ask questions. It'll take place 5 o'clock. So early on, there's going to be opportunities for the Detroit Children's Fund and kids that are benefiting to go out there and see and experience what it's like, and to ask questions and to participate and to be part of this great game of golf. If others want to contribute and go to the website, how can they become more actively involved with these kind of organizations that you're part of?
Well, first of all, we would love that, and we know it takes a village. So our website is www.detroitchildrensfund.org. We are always, open to people reaching out, and if folks have ideas or ways they want to contribute, we also have sort of ready-made ways that people can contribute both their time and their resources as well. And I just want to say, one of the schools that we partner with, an organization, New Paradigm for Education, they run 6 schools here in Detroit. They are sending about 14 or 15 kids to the clinic on Monday evening. And one of the things that's really important about the Rocket Mortgage Classic is that for many kids in Detroit, this will be their first time being exposed to the game of golf. So it's a real opportunity not only just to grow the game, but also to give kids access to a sport and really a sort of community that they've never had access to before.
Yeah, one of the core issues and core strategies that you guys are working with is to tackle systemic issues, improve educator talent, increasing school quality. So the work that you guys are doing is so helpful. So when we talk about supporting a PGA Tour event, it's not just going out there, it's also becoming aware of how organizations like the Detroit Children's Fund benefit from your support when you go out there, when you see information. Definitely go support the Detroit Rocket Mortgage Classic and the Detroit Children's Fund. It's so key and critical for the success of some of these organizations.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's one of many ways in which the business community at large has really dug into education and children as one of the most important issues facing our city, and we're just grateful to be part of the process.
You can go to DetroitChildren'sFund.org. Are there any other activities going to take place throughout the week at the Rocket Mortgage Classic where people can assist or participate and learn about the Detroit Children's Fund?
Yeah, we do know that there are going to be some children, I think, some teenagers who are participating and supporting the event in other ways, helping out with the crew, et cetera. I will be on hand, as well as a few of my team members will be wearing badges that say Detroit Children's Fund. I'll probably be in one of our golf polos that say Detroit Children's Fund. So I would just invite anybody who's planning to come out there. If you see a bald-headed guy with a beard who's got a Detroit Children's Fund logo on, come up and talk to me. I love to have conversations about the work that we're doing, the teachers we're supporting, the leaders we're supporting, and the kids in Detroit that we care about so much. So please come strike up a conversation. We'd love to talk about it, while watching some of the best players in the world right here in Detroit.
No doubt about it. The Detroit Children's Fund doing great work. They're one of the beneficiaries working with the Detroit Rocket Mortgage Classic, going to take place next week. What's your sense of the morale of the teachers and all the administrators and staff that are working in the Detroit public schools? How are you sensing your work is influencing what's going on at the current level?
Look, I'll say for a long time, and still in some schools, it's very tough. It's tough to be a teacher. We should just start by acknowledging that. It has been especially hard to be a teacher and a school leader in Detroit for many, many years. I think we are slowly changing that. I think the leadership of the superintendent, Dr. Nikolai Viti at DPS, CD, as well as many of the charter leaders that we're supporting, are slowly turning that ship in the right direction. We're a fierce advocate for teachers being compensated more, but in addition to that, making sure they get the support that they need. And I'll tell you that the teachers and the leaders we're working with are deeply appreciative of our support and really want to just show up every day the best way they can for kids. And so, I'm humbled every time I walk into a school and talk to one of our teachers or talk to one of our school leaders. They do such important work, and they really do make sacrifices, and they don't get nearly enough credit for how much time and effort they spend on a daily basis to make sure kids are learning and growing. So that is, I think morale is trending in the right direction, but there's certainly a lot more work to do. And one way in which folks can help with that is by partnering with us.
Excellent. I've enjoyed the conversation with Jack Elsey, Executive Director of the Detroit Children's Fund. Again, go check them out. Great information regarding the work that they're doing. A very impressive board of directors that are definitely working to help out Detroit schools. And I'm looking forward to maybe meeting you at the Detroit Rocket Mortgage Classic. I'll be out there. Go check out DetroitChildren'sFund.org. You'll definitely be doing your part. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, John. Appreciate the time.
I truly enjoy conversations like that where those that are hardworking are in the community, not just talking about some of the challenges that we face in Detroit public schools, but also getting in the trenches, working with leaders, and helping to advocate for change. And I truly appreciate talking to Jack Elsey, Executive Director of the Detroit Children's Fund. And again, please support them by going to DetroitChildren'sFund.org. Thank you so much for downloading, and please retweet, like, share, and subscribe to the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. That way, once you hit subscribe, the podcast will just come directly to you. You don't even have to go and find it. Thanks, everybody. We'll find you again soon.